What's going on, bottom line viewers and NFL fans? It's Mitch here with my final predictive mock draft of this 2022 NFL draft. I personally feel like the 2022 NFL draft is about to be one of the most exciting drafts we have ever seen. The more that I think about it, the more that I think about the possibilities, the more that I think about the butterfly effect of this draft. I believe it's going to be completely unpredictable. I believe it's going to be completely off the wall. And one crazy draft pick, one crazy reach, one trade is going to completely change how this draft unfolds in the first round. So I've sat here, I've thought about it, and I'm going to give you my best guess about how the first round is going to go based on my knowledge of all these teams, all the reports that have been floated out about each team and their needs and where they're looking to pick and who they're looking to pick in this draft. So before I give you my predictive mock draft for this 2022 NFL draft, Gronk, spike the like button and subscribe to the channel for more BLV just like this. Also, don't forget to tune in to the live stream Thursday night, probably tonight if you're watching this Thursday morning. Mock draft time and then draft time. I'll be live for the first round of the draft, so make sure you join me tonight. Let's get to the mock draft and let's guess what's going to happen in this crazy draft. Okay, here we are once again with our friend, the PFF Draft Simulator. This has been very useful for me, by the way. And again, I've made a couple mock drafts where I have been the general manager of each team. That is not what this is going to be. This is going to be my prediction for every pick in this draft. Let's start off with the first pick in the draft. The heavy favorite, according to the market, is Travon Walker of Georgia. The buzz is surrounding Travon Walker of Georgia. And the only real other possibility here, in my opinion, is Ekwonu, the tackle from North Carolina State. I think it's going to be Travon Walker, nearly 100%, and I don't want to waste your time. So Travon Walker is the pick. Would that be my pick? We know it wouldn't be, but it's their pick. He's got a ton of upside. He can be a special player in this league if he gets the right tutelage, the right coaching, and is put in the right situation. So Travon Walker is going to be the pick for Trent Baalke and the Jags. There's been buzz around tackle, but Travon just seems too likely here. The number 2 pick has been really up in the air. I'm recording this past midnight Pacific time on Wednesday night. Now it's technically Thursday morning. And the latest buzz has been that Thibodeau might go number 2 to the Lions. I don't know if this is driven by the media, driven by Josina Anderson, who has a connection with Kayvon. I don't know if this is driven by Thibodeau himself and the things that he has said about the Lions and the experience there. I don't know if it's driven by the Lions, if it's driven by people that know what they're going to do. I don't exactly know what it is, but there is definitely smoke there, which makes me very, very aware. Because I have been constantly saying, and I would look dumb, to be honest, if Thibodeau goes number 2. Because I've been saying that Thibodeau is likely to fall in the draft. Just based on my thoughts about each team, their needs, based on, I think, the evaluation of Thibodeau early in the process was a bit inflated. I think it's been very media-driven and not necessarily always there in terms of the NFL evaluation, which ultimately matters in the draft process. So the number 2 pick is interesting. It's certainly between Hutchinson and Thibodeau. That's where I'm at with this. On one hand, you have Hutchinson, who really has no off-the-field concerns. He's going to be a hard worker. He's going to be a great culture fit. He is from Michigan. He went to Michigan. There's going to be more fanfare in that way. But then you also talk about the Lions and their love affair of Kayvon Thibodeau over the past few months and what they've said about him. So it's kind of an either way deal. And if you were to pick either one to go to the Lions, I wouldn't blame you here. But ultimately, I think the deciding factor is between two very even players. Hutchinson is cleaner off the field. He has lesser questions about his attitude towards football. And I think that might just give the nudge to Detroit to pick Aiden Hutchinson here. So I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson as my official pick. Number 3. There has been buzz about Derek Stingley Jr., who is the favorite to go to the Texans. But as I've stated in my Best Bets video, which if you haven't already checked out that video, please do. If you haven't checked it out, go do it. I believe that Stingley, just as I believe Thibodeau, are likely to fall in this draft. But Stingley could reverse that if he's picked here by the Texans. The narrative that I can't seem to figure out is the narrative between what I believe Nick Caserio would do and what Lovie Smith might want to do. And that's where I'm stuck. A lot of people believe it's Derek Stingley because they believe Lovie Smith and his outright claims that he wants improved corner play. But again, I don't really personally believe that Lovie Smith loves shutdown corners, right? This is a guy that had Darrelle Revis, the best shutdown corner since Deion Sanders, and didn't know how to use him. So is he really going to want a corner that bad at pick number 3 to pick Derek Stingley, who's played 10 games in 2 years? That's my question. Right, this buzz about Derek Stingley going number 3 just doesn't seem to add up, even though people are suggesting that Lovie Smith really wants to get a corner here. Maybe I'm totally wrong. The market suggests that Derek Stingley is the pick. He is the favorite to go to number 3. But the interesting thing here is that Ahmad Sauce Gardner is actually the favorite to be the highest picked cornerback. So there is some difference there, which makes me believe that the market doesn't really even know. It's based on the influence of bettors out there and potentially sharps out there that are making that claim of Derek Stingley to the Texans. So it is really tricky at number 3. Just as number 2 with Thibodeau could change the draft, number 3 could also change the draft. So there's a lot of interesting narratives here. But at the end of the day, I've seen some pretty big names go with Ekwonu as the 3rd selection in the draft for the Texans. I believe that would be the selection for the Texans. I wouldn't be surprised by Evan Neal, given his squeaky clean image, given his Alabama connection to obviously Nick Caserio loving Alabama guys from New England, and also having right tackle versatility and playing guard in his past. But I think Ekwonu actually projects better to guard in the NFL to add that versatility to the line if they want to keep Titus Howard at tackle for the short term. So I think that offensive line is the way to go here for Nick Caserio, and that's where I think he is going to go. But I wouldn't be shocked based on the buzz surrounding Derek Stingley if it was Derek Stingley at the end of the day. But I'm going to go with my educated guess of Ekwonu. The number 4 pick is tricky. It's not Kayvon Thibodeau. All of the big sources and big beat reporters of New York and the Jets has basically claimed it's not going to be Thibodeau, as I thought it wouldn't be. On top of that, it's not going to be a cornerback because they really haven't brought up corner in this discussion. So, from what I understand, and the most common sources out there are claiming that Jermaine Johnson is a favorite of the Jets, and that they prefer Jermaine Johnson over Thibodeau as a pass rusher and as an edge player. They could potentially go with Gardner, but I don't really think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to go with Sauce. I think they would go with Ekwonu if he fell. I'm not exactly sure how they feel about Evan Neal, which could also be the pick here at number 4. But ultimately, the most buzz and most smoke comes from the direction of Jermaine Johnson to the Jets. So that might be one that you don't see very often in very many mock drafts, but that's the pick I'm going to go with. It makes sense. It's a perfect scheme fit. It's the need that Douglas ultimately wants. And when you really think about it, the Jets, if they're going to roll with Becton at left tackle, and they're fine with that, and they believe in him, then tackle doesn't make as much sense as edge. So I'm going to roll the dice with Jermaine Johnson at number 4 as maybe an outside-the-box selection. At number 5, this one I believe is going to be a tackle for the Giants. It's clearly the biggest need on their roster. And the one that I keep going back to here, it's between Cross and Neal. Neal has been getting some buzz to drop in the draft because of medicals that don't seem to check out in terms of being something that would be held against him. I think they're false claims, and I don't think those reports are accurate. I think it's smoke for a team to want Evan Neal to drop to them, potentially. Charles Cross would make sense because the Giants kind of seemed to like Charles Cross throughout the process, but I think that was them doing their due diligence on if Evan Neal was not there. Why I like Evan Neal. Andrew Thomas is a pure left tackle. He's not going to play right tackle. Cross is a pure left tackle. He's never really played right tackle, so he's never shown the versatility. Evan Neal was a dominant right tackle for the national champion in 2020, protecting Mac Jones. Brian Daboll has a background coaching in Alabama. Those two things lead me to believe that Evan Neal is the pick at pick 5. Pick 6, as long as one of the tackles are on the board for Carolina, that is the direction they're going to go. So they're going to select a very good pass blocker that can help protect for Sam Darnold or whoever the future quarterback is, Charles Cross. That is the pick at number 6 for the Carolina Panthers. Pick number 7 for the New York Giants. Pick number 7 for the Giants could be interesting. I could see them going in a few different directions here, as my mock draft is a little slow. I believe that the Atlanta Falcons, this one, I'm kind of getting the sense if Jermaine Johnson is not there, they might go Thibodeau. I think they like Johnson, and I think they'd be intrigued by Thibodeau as well. But I do think they want a receiver too. So I could see this going either way. I could see them going with Thibodeau to help Dean Pease's pass rush. And I could see them going with Jameson Williams at wide receiver. I'm going to go with Jameson Williams. Here's why. Jameson Williams' speed can open up the offense for the Falcons. He's going to be a deep threat. He's going to open up Kyle Pitts underneath. You can already move around Kyle Pitts in the slot on the outside at tight end. Jameson Williams can be that over-the-top target for whichever quarterback is their future. He's a game changer. And the Falcons desperately need that because I don't know what the future is of Calvin Ridley. If you get Calvin Ridley back, great. But if you don't, you got a number 1 receiver right there. I've heard that a lot of people believe Jameson Williams, as do I, is the best receiver in the draft and is nearly a top 10 lock. So, when you look at it, if Williams is to go in this first round, it makes the most sense for Atlanta to pick him or for the Jets. And personally, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons, given that they have probably the weakest wide receiving core in the NFL entering the draft. The Seattle Seahawks are number 9. And this one's made easy because Kayvon Thibodeau has slipped and fallen in the draft. I think the Seahawks, they need a pass rusher. This is an area of their team that they've desperately needed to upgrade for years. They know that when they are at their best defensively, their pass rush needs to be good. And I think Thibodeau finally falls and is picked at number 9. Derek Stingley still on the board. At number 10, the New York Jets. The Jets, similarly to the Falcons, probably want to look at receiver. Most of the buzz surrounding the Jets is they want to come away with an edge, a wide receiver, or a tackle. That is kind of what I'm getting from it. And the most common has been edge and wide receiver. We've got Jermaine Johnson for the Jets. Now they got to look for their wide receiver. Zach Wilson talked about being pretty happy about the plan entering the draft, which makes me believe that they're going to go receiver with one of these top picks. Jameson Williams is gone, which would be maybe their top pick. But there's a guy that fits Zach Wilson very well. A big receiver who can win contested footballs and really can help Zach Wilson in the inside, on the outside. And Zach Wilson thrived with some bigger target wide receivers in college. So I think Drake London makes a lot of sense. He's also a captain of his football team at USC, which is something that Douglas kind of has like a fetish for. So I'm going to go with Drake London at number 10. At number 11, the Washington Commanders. This one, I think, is kind of clean and obvious. It could be a receiver here, but I think the most common pick here is Kyle Hamilton. I think this is where the slide stops for Kyle Hamilton, if you believe there is a slide. I think he's clearly a pretty safe pick here. Ron Rivera is a defensive coach at the end of the day, and they have a clear need at safety. So even, you could go receiver. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, they're enticing. But I think Kyle Hamilton is the pick for Washington. At number 12, this is really interesting because a lot of people think they're going to pick a corner. And if Derek Stingley is here, it would make a ton of sense. I think I would probably go with Derek Stingley here, or maybe Trent McDuffie here. But I have constantly been reading mock drafts and been getting the sense that the Vikings might pull a LA Rams. At the end of the day, Kevin O'Connell is the new head coach of the Vikings. And he is from LA with the Rams. The Rams love to stockpile wide receivers. And you need to play 3 receivers constantly if you're the Vikings this year in Kevin O'Connell's new offense for this football team. Adam Thielen's getting older. He's very unreliable in terms of his health. And you need somebody for the future to complement Justin Jefferson. And this would also arguably be the quickest way the Vikings can compete in the NFC, is just by loading up at wide receiver for Kirk Cousins and having a lot of targets and a lot of firepower. Plus, this is a young general manager, and the young game today is stockpiling weapons for your quarterback. So, I'm going to go with the commonly mocked Garrett Wilson to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm starting to believe that one. Now, this is where Derek Stingley makes a ton of sense. So maybe, just maybe, the mockers, the people that are betting on Derek Stingley to go number 3, are getting news and information that the Texans really like Derek Stingley. And maybe they're getting the information not about pick number 3, but about pick number 13. Could that not be a possibility? Because it wasn't that long ago that we thought Stingley was going to fall outside the top 10. And all of a sudden, there was some buzz that he was going to be picked at number 3. Maybe this was the Texans' way of keeping their tackle pick quiet, because maybe they really want Ekwonu, who Jacksonville has also been rumored of maybe liking, at number 1. So this is kind of the process that's going through my head. I kind of think the Texans want Stingley at 13 and want him to fall, and not necessarily at number 3. So I think Stingley would be the pick at number 13. I have seen some bold proclamations of guys like Quay Walker, who I actually think would be a great fit for their defense, and Lovie Smith. but Stingley is too talented to pass up at 13 and is worth the risk at that pick. Number 14 is the Baltimore Ravens. This one, I'm not going to get too complicated here. He's a perfect Baltimore Raven. I've said it many times. Jordan Davis is the pick for Baltimore, I think, at the end of the day. They love their big defensive linemen, and Jordan Davis would make a ton of sense. Could you see them go with somebody like Trent McDuffie, Daxton Hill? Yeah, maybe potentially. Even George Karlaftis could go there, but his stock has kind of fallen a little bit outside the top 20. Jordan Davis is in the markets nearly a top 15 lock. So 14 to the Ravens just seems to connect the dots. At number 15, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles could go a lot of different ways with their 15th pick. They could go with a corner here. Trent McDuffie is still there. They could also go with a big position of need at wide receiver. Given that the Saints are pick 16, the Saints also, one of their biggest needs is a wide receiver. So because of that, I think the Eagles at pick 15, if they don't trade up, will go with the wide receiver. And the last remaining of the top tier, according to the NFL, is Chris Olave. So that is going to be the pick for the Eagles on this mock draft. Pick number 16 for the Saints is the first of their draft. And this is where they potentially maybe get a little bit tricky, right? They could go off the wall with this selection here. But they've also got a pick at pick 19. So you've got to consider what's coming up down the road for the Chargers and for the Eagles. So the Eagles took a wide receiver. They're unlikely to take two. Other needs could mean maybe corner. Obviously, the Chargers aren't taking a quarterback if the Saints want to take one. So I don't think they would take a quarterback at 16. Could they be afraid of the Eagles taking a quarterback? I mean, that could be a possibility. I don't think the Eagles would be looking to take a tackle. But the Chargers could be looking to take a tackle. So that's where I look at number 16 and I say, could tackle be the pick for the Saints? Because I do believe they believe in strengthening the offensive line. They lost Teron Armstead, which was a huge loss for them. I think they've been maneuvering to get a tackle in this draft. That might not be the way that I go in the draft, but I think that could be the way that they go. There's two tackles here that they could go with. Bernard Raymond, as well as Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle of Northern Iowa. So they could go either way there. I think Tyler Smith projects more to guard, so I'd be a little bit surprised if they went with Tyler Smith. Maybe, but I don't know. So at pick 16, I'm going to go... This one's real tricky because I feel like back-to-back, this could be tackle back-to-back. So I'm going to go with Trevor Penning. I believe he is the guy that's more commonly up the board. So I'm going to go with Trevor Penning. I think he's the more commonly sought-after prospect at number 16. And then I kind of gave my pick away at number 17. I know that I've seen mocks of Trent McDuffie. I've seen mocks of potential corners at this spot. But when you look at Michael Davis, Asante Samuel Jr., and then also J.C. Jackson, I don't think they're going to go corner here. Defensive line doesn't make a ton of sense because Jordan Davis is gone. Safety, I would probably say no. Could they go Daxton Hill? Maybe potentially. That wouldn't be shocking. But I think tackle makes the most sense. They need to shore up the right side. I think that their right side is pretty lousy in terms of their offensive line. So I think Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan is going to be the pick. Either him or Trevor Penning, depending on the order there for the Chargers and the Saints. So that's the mock I'm going to go with there for those two teams, which was really challenging. The Philadelphia Eagles at number 18. I think this leaves them to get Trent McDuffie, who I think they'll be very happy to get at this spot. He's a really good zone corner, very instinctual, very smart, and he'll fit right into their defensive scheme on the perimeter. So they get their corner and their wide receiver, which is what I think they're planning on doing in this draft. They could go defensive line, but I don't think they're going to go there ultimately. At pick number 19 is the Saints, and this is where we get maybe a little bit outside the box. This is where we go crazy. This is where we have some fun with our mock, and this is honestly, I could really see this. I'm not just playing around here. I could really see this happening. I think there's always a team that's quiet about their want for a quarterback, and especially a team that trades up in this draft to get some picks, right? And trades to maneuver themselves in a position where they believe they can get their guy. So the Saints, I think quarterback is going to be a pick here. I just have a feeling, I could see receiver, but looking at the current board, it might kind of unfold that they don't like any of these receivers. Maybe they like Treylon Burks, maybe, but I'm going to go with a quarterback. I'm going to be crazy here, and I'm going to say that they go with Matt Corral. I could be wrong. Maybe they go with Kenny Pickett. I don't see them as a Malik Willis type of team. I think they're going to go with Matt Corral. I'm just going to go crazy. I just have a feeling that the Saints would really like Matt Corral. I just think there's a lot of things that they would really value in terms of his release, in terms of his arm strength, in terms of his mobility. I think all of those things would really make sense for the Saints. So he could sit behind Jameis Winston for a year. And a lot of people, I think, are going to be very on the opposite sides of the spectrum with Matt Corral. I think there's going to be a lot of people like me that love him. I think there's going to be a lot of others that don't see it with him in the first round. So I think the Saints will be one of those teams that see it with him and pick him at number 19. Could also be Kenny Pickett. I wouldn't be surprised. At pick number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think this one is lined up for Malik Willis. I think they want Malik Willis. I just think it's obvious. This team's been kind of obvious over the years, and this just lines up for them, especially because the GM is retiring, and I think he wants to find the next quarterback for the future of this franchise on his way out. So Malik Willis is the guy at pick 20. The New England Patriots are up, and I've been mocking them Devin Lloyd. But there has recently been buzz about a linebacker that will not make it past the Patriots, according to reports. And that linebacker is sort of a Jamie Collins. And that linebacker is from Georgia. That linebacker is not Nakobe Dean. His name is Quay Walker. He's 6'4". He's got good size. He's got great length. He's got great coverage and run stopping ability. Quay Walker could be the pick here for the Patriots. I'm going to go a little bit different there and bypass Devin Lloyd for Quay Walker at 21. At pick 22, the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are kind of strange. Every time you think you know what they're going to do, they don't do it. I just feel like this year they have to come away with one wide receiver in the first round. They just have to. I think their franchise would implode if they do not get a receiver in the first round. There's a lot of people that think they're going to be tricky once again and go with different positions. I think they're going to go with the receiver at 22, and I think it's going to be Treylon Burks, a guy that they view as somebody they can utilize like their Deebo Samuel, Matt LaFleur's version of Deebo Samuel, Treylon Burks. At pick 23, you've got the Arizona Cardinals. This one, if he's there, I think he fits a need perfectly. He's a good player. I think a lot of people view him as a top 20 prospect. I think George Karlaftis is the pick for the Arizona Cardinals. At pick 24, the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys need offensive line. If the Cowboys don't choose to trade up for Derek Stingley or maybe Kayvon Thibodeau, which has been rumored, I think they're going to go with offensive line. And they're going to go with one of the more reliable guys in the draft. The best ones are on the interior. I don't think they're going to go with Tyler Linderbaum as much as I would pick Tyler Linderbaum. I think they're going to go with Zion Johnson here at pick number 24. At pick 25, it's the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills have been rumored to maybe be a team that goes after Breece Hall, a running back. But that could happen in the second round. I think that they're going to go with a bigger, more pressing need, in my opinion, which is the corner position. I think they're going to look to one of these corners with some length and some ability on the perimeter. I think Andrew Booth has been rumored to be sliding down the board because I believe of the hernia situation. I could be wrong about that. So I think Kaiir Elam might jump him in the rankings. And Elam also makes a lot of sense for the Buffalo Bills. So I could go with him. So it's really between Booth and Elam. Personally, I would pick Booth. But just given the reports, I think Booth is going to slide down a little bit further. So I'm going to pick Elam as the number 25 pick and the corner for the Buffalo Bills. At pick 26, the Tennessee Titans are in a perfect situation to upgrade their offensive line. I think it might be enticing for Mike Vrabel to go with a linebacker like Devin Lloyd, but I think ultimately he's going to go with a great run blocker in Kenyon Green to upgrade the offensive line. He can play tackle. He could also play guard. At pick 27, the Tampa Bay Bucks are up, and this is a dream scenario for the Bucks. They could potentially add, they could even maybe go with Devin Lloyd here. They love linebackers, but I think they're going to look towards the secondary, and there is a player that I just think is too good to pass up. They could go with Lewis Cine, who I think they like a lot, and if this player is not there, I think they will pick Lewis Cine. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Daxton Hill. Daxton Hill's a Michigan guy. Tom Brady, obviously Michigan guy. I believe there's some sort of connection in the front office towards Michigan as well. But Daxton Hill has the hybrid ability that they were looking for when they signed Logan Ryan. He can play the nickel position. He can play safety as well. And he will be a perfect partner for Antoine Winfield Jr. and upgrade a secondary that was just ravaged by injuries last year. So Daxton Hill would be a great addition to that team, and I think a steal at 27. At pick 28, the Green Bay Packers, they're going to have at least one crazy pick that's a little bit off the wall. There has recently been buzz of this player being in the first round conversation. Adam Schefter reported late tonight. I believe that player is going to be Drake Jackson. Drake Jackson fits the threshold of a number of areas that the Packers look for in terms of edge rushers. He's got a lot of bend and a lot of upside as a pass rusher. I think the Packers are looking for that position. There's been a lot of people mocking that position to them. I think Drake Jackson and the Packers, that connection makes sense. Pick 29 is the Kansas City Chiefs. They got 29 and 30, so they can pick back-to-back here the best prospects that they deem the best prospects. Now, at pick 29, I think it's really going to be corner and wide receiver. Would I be shocked by an edge player? No, I wouldn't be, but I think those are the 2 or 3 positions that they're going to look at. I think Devin Lloyd, they're going to bypass him. Tyler Linderbaum, they don't need. Devontae Wyatt could be a possibility, but I think they're going to go with Andrew Booth Jr. and take a chance on the very talented corner that a lot of people think is a top 15, 20 talent in this class, and the Chiefs are one of those teams willing to risk it. And then at pick 30, the Chiefs are going to go with a wide receiver. They could go with many different receivers here. You could go with Sky Moore. They could go with George Pickens, although he looks like a second-round guy now due to the reports. Jahan Dotson's very intriguing, as well as Christian Watson. Personally, I would pick Christian Watson, but I have not gotten the sense by many people in the know that Watson will go in the first round. So my guess is the guy most commonly mocked in the first round is Jahan Dotson, somebody that's a great route runner and can have outside or inside versatility. Jahan Dotson will be pick 30 for the Chiefs. Pick 31 for the Cincinnati Bengals. It would make sense for them to go with Tyler Linderbaum here, and they might very well do that, and I probably would, to be honest with you. I could also see them going with a defensive lineman like Logan Hall. So I'm going to make a last-second switch here. I was going to go with Logan Hall, but now that I'm really looking at the board, I feel like Tyler Linderbaum would just be too good for the Bengals to pass up, even though they did address their offensive line this offseason already. I think Linderbaum is the pick for the Bengals if he falls this far. And then at pick 32, it's the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, I think they could just use defensive help. Could they go with Devontae Wyatt? Possibly. Could they go with a safety like Lewis Cine? They could also go with him. But I think Devin Lloyd is just too good of a football player. He's a leader. He's at a position of need, linebacker. And I think he could really change the middle of that defense. So Devin Lloyd would be the final pick of the first round. And that is my mock draft for this 2022 first round. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to Gronk, spike the like button and subscribe. I hope I'm fairly accurate with this, but who knows what's going to happen. Let me know what you think's going to happen in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to tune in tonight for my live stream and my crazy reactions to the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft. Peace, guys.